evening and welcome to IGF 2025. This is now our tradition, isn't it? That we gather the finest minds, the biggest thinkers, and the people who are reshaping India and its economy. And, of course, India's place in the world. And my goodness, there is a lot for us to talk about over the next couple of days. My name is Ben Thompson. I'm delighted to be with you once again here in Mumbai. Some of you may know I am a news anchor and correspondent for the BBC. And every time I come to Mumbai, I see it through very different eyes. I see the optimism, the growth, the development of this city. I see the culture, the art, and the food. I see an eye on the past and its incredible history. But I also see that focus on its future and that huge, incredible ambition. Yes. And so my job is to be your guide through the next couple of days. There is a lot for us to discuss. We have conversations, discussions, and debates. We are calling our gathering Next 25, Leading the Leap. Now, some of you will have been with us in Dubai back in November, and then also in London, of course, in the summer. But since we met here in this very room a year ago, a lot has changed in the world. And doing my job, I take huge pride in being able to explain what's happening in the world to the world. With my incredible colleagues right around the world, we try to make sense of what is happening. But lately, that has been harder than ever to do. It feels like so much just doesn't make sense. The feeling that so much is changing, but changing all too quickly. And it's maybe easy to think, isn't it, perhaps, that amid all that change, that sheltering from the storm, protecting what you have, being smaller, shrinking back a little bit, might be a way to protect yourself. But if I know anything about this country and the people who are here, it's about seizing the opportunities. It's about looking at what that change and upheaval may present. And that's why the theme of our gathering this year is about being bigger, about being bolder, and about being better. And it is, of course, why India is predicted to be the second largest economy in the world by the year 2050. And so let us assess where there are risks, where there are opportunities, and crucially, I think right now, we'll look at where there is hope. So a very warm welcome to you all to IGF 2025. And so this last week, my goodness, has been interesting, hasn't it? A fundamental rewriting of the rules of global trade by the president of the world's largest economy. As the global landscape grows increasingly unpredictable, it's shaped by so many factors, but things like rising protectionism, power rivalry, the realignment of crucial trade priorities. Things like foreign policy, economic diplomacy are entering a new, unheard of era. And so, how may we respond to this? What would a response look like? And where are the opportunities? And so in our first session this evening, I want to look at how two big players in the global economy may respond. They are India and Australia. I want to ask how they are navigating this crisis. And I want to see whether there are opportunities. Ask the question about whether old alliances are still fit for purpose, and what role those countries and their economies may play in a world of shifting tariffs and economic nationalism. And so let's get to our first session. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale, who's the in charge of Foreign Affairs Department at the BJP. Welcome. And also His Excellency Philip Green, the High Commissioner at the Australian High Commission in New Delhi. Please, gentlemen, take a seat. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being here on what is quite possibly a era-defining week. There is so much for us to talk about, and I know it will shape so many of the conversations that we're going to have in this room over the next 48 hours. But Dr. Vijay, let me start with you first of all. And how would you assess, do you think, what has happened in this last week?
It's not very difficult to understand the complexity and the severity of what's happening. I guess the globalization, which we all understand in the last 10, 15 years, is now getting reshaped and redefined. And every player who is excessively exposed to the global trade will have some impact. India, fortunately, has a very good domestic market, but it will still get impacted. But overall, I guess the entire global economy is in flux. and we have to just watch for a few
Put some extra time on the clock because Piyush is running late, Ben.
And what would, let's talk, I want to focus on some of the positives that may come out of this and what some of the opportunities may be, but I think we should talk fundamentally about what the risks are first of all. And as you said, it's still so much for us to determine. A lot of this is not yet clear. Where do you see the risks for India?
Of course, the sectors which are dependent on the exports, especially to US, and we have a large exposure to the same, we'll have something to worry about. Still, some sectors are not that much impacted, especially like pharma, but there is also news that they will also face the tariff. So, I think it is still uncertain, and we need to assess the severity of the total impact.
Philip Green, we should say there's a caveat in all of quite how much detail you can get into because our elections are looming, aren't they?
Thank you very much, Ben. We're in the so-called caretaker period. So,
yes, so that's established. I want to ask you the same question I asked Dr. Vijay. That, how would you assess what has gone on this week? How fundamental is this?
Oh, well, look, let's think about the world before this week, which was challenged. We're living through a period in our region, the Indo-Pacific, of unprecedented superpower rivalry, a highly contested region where we need to pay much more attention to security and the attendant economic security that goes along with that. And at the same time, we're dealing with a world which is engaged in, well, a world which experiences two major conflicts. One in Eastern Europe and one in the Middle East. So a lot of work for diplomats to do. In relation to Mr. Trump's decision on tariffs, I mean, this was unsurprising. Mr. Trump has made clear he's going to do things differently. Every US president does. And each of us will have to work out how we manage that. Now, for Australia, first thing to say is the United States is our unparalleled strategic partner and a very important economic partner. The United States is the cornerstone of our security. And at a time of greater contestation in the Indo-Pacific, engagement with the United States and drawing them closer in the way in which we seek to find a balance in our region is more important than ever. The second thing to say is that the decision of Mr. Trump on tariffs is, as I said, not so surprising, but in Australia's case it is unwarranted. We have a free trade agreement with the United States. The United States has had a surplus of trade with us for every year since 1952. At the moment, that surplus is 2-to-1 in the favour of the United States. Yeah. Every good that enters Australia from the United States enters at zero tariff. We will be working constructively with our friends in the United States. 10% is at the low end, but for us it's too high. Yeah. And we will be working with all of the agency that we can muster to convince our friends in the United States that it is in their interests as well as ours to have that number lowered.
And given that it doesn't seem to be based on the economic fundamentals, all those fundamentals of trade, this tells us that this is about politics. This isn't about economics. This isn't about trade. This is about pure politics, isn't it?
Oh, well, Mr. Trump has identified the reasons for what he's doing, and as I said, they're not surprising. He enjoys considerable support in the United States.
He flagged it on the campaign trail.
We need to manage that new reality. We need to work with it and work with the grain of our important ally in ensuring that we find a better way in the future.
I want to come on to some of that diplomacy that may go on, because you touched on that. But Dr. Vijay, let me ask you about what the response may look like. And, so India is sitting here working out what that number means, what sectors are particularly affected. What is the diplomacy that now goes on? How does India, how do countries around the world, how do they respond to this?
I think as my friend has said, India is also very actively engaged with US right now. Yeah. I don't have I am not privy to the details, and maybe in the next session we will hear it. But I think as a friend we will be able to find some solution and common ground over a period of time. That's the best.
I mean, because the phrase that kind of echoes around all these negotiations are that, this is not the behaviour of a friend or an ally. This is not a country that wants to do trade when, they're prepared to put up trade blocks in such a way. Does the rest of the world need to sort of put that aside and think, well, that's, this has been established now.
I think
we need to respond in whatever way.
Every country will have to find out its own way, because he is not treating every country with the same scale. Okay. So for India, Indians will have to find out its own solution for enhancing the bilateral trade with US, and same thing with Australia. And there cannot be a common solution.
So Philip, what is that diplomacy? What does that look like? I mean, is this just, joining the queue at the White House for a meeting with Mr. Trump?
Oh, well, it will be comprehensive, and it will begin with our leaders, and with where, a very good relationship has been struck up between Prime Minister Albanese and also with members of the opposition currently in Australia, and Mr. Trump works through our embassy in Washington. I mean, this is what diplomats are for, isn't it? We are creating mechanisms to engage so that when there are points at which we differ, we can find mutually agreed solutions. That's what diplomacy is about.
What might that solution be?
Oh, well, for Australia, it's very clear. Although a 10% tariff is at the low end of what has happened globally, we think it's too high. And we think it's appropriate if tariffs are going to be reciprocal, our tariffs are zero. So that's the outcome that we seek.
I mean, what strikes me about both India and Australia here, so many similarities in terms of that trade relationship that these countries have with the United States, but very different economic domestic fundamentals. And I wonder in India's case as well, is there an argument here that with, such a huge growing population, with a huge domestic population to serve, that India might think actually, well, yes, of course the US is a huge part of our trade picture. But we're in a really fortunate position that we've got a huge growing domestic market that we can service better, and maybe there's a bit more inward looking.
Yeah, but in addition to the domestic, we also have very good bilateral partnership with many countries, including bilateral agreement with Australia, with UAE. So we need to foster these agreements.
Ben, please check the timer.
With UK. So opportunities are there outside USA also, but they cannot be displaced with not talking to US.
So push the next.
It's so interesting, and the fundamentals are really different. And I wonder in Australia's case as well, China, utterly the focus of everything that we've seen out of the White House lately in terms of trying to redress that trade imbalance, according to Mr. Trump. Is there a danger Australia gets caught in the crossfire? Because clearly a really important trading partner for both, but particularly geographically where you are.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, we have an important relationship with China, and we cooperate with China where we can. We disagree where we must, and we always act in Australia's national interests with our partners and colleagues. We've been through a period of considerable difficulty in our relationship with China, and we've come out the other side of that. Yeah. So, I mean, that is working on a separate track to the way in which we engage with the United States.
Dr. Vijay, do you think we are in a period now where we have to make our peace with the fact that the days of fully, open, be it in whatever respect, the way that global trade has worked for the past, several decades is over? That this is a new beginning, and that therefore once we've all accepted that this is a new start, we can start rebuilding what it looks like?
I think it is too early to make such a bold statement. The indicators are in the same, what you are saying, in the same direction, but at the same time, yet full picture is yet to come up. So we'll have to just wait and watch and be prepared.
What does that preparation look like, though?
Now, as I said, that more bilateral engagements and also enhancing the domestic consumption can be some of the tips.
I mean, is there an element just here, Philip, about holding one's nerve?
If you look at what's happening on the stock markets right now, I mean, the message is hold your nerve, is it a great buying opportunity? That aside, when it comes to the diplomacy as well, is this about just holding your nerve? Who blinks first?
Well, let me come back to your previous question that Vijay answered well, but let me add something to this. We all benefit from free and open trade. And my country is a great example of that, where over the last 2 generations, we've benefited hugely from opening our markets and allowing our comparative advantages to prevail and other countries' comparative advantages to prevail as well. We also benefit from a system of rules in relation to trade that are predictable and allow transparency and allow traders to go about their natural business. Those realities, those verities have not changed. And so Australia will always be an advocate for a continued system of reliable, predictable, fair trading environment.
But essentially dealing with someone who's not prepared to play by those rules. I mean, that's where the playing field has changed, isn't it?
Oh, well, the trading arrangements that we've got have had headwinds in the past, and they will have headwinds in the future. What I can tell you then is that Australia will always be a supporter of free and open trade.
And I assume that's also true of India.
Absolutely.
But I wonder, in the short term, how, given what's happening, I mean, is there a way that India can say, actually, we're prepared to sort of sideline the US here because we have so much else that we have to deal with? Or will it always remain that fundamental part, whatever the terms may be?
No, we cannot say that we can sideline US. It's too important a country for us. I guess there will be some middle way to come to a conclusion in the near future.
Our time is up. We're going to rattle through our conversations tonight. It's really just a way for us to set the stage for so many of the discussions we will have in various rooms around this venue over the next sort of 24, 48 hours. But ladies and gents, please put your hands together for Dr. Vijay Chauthaiwale and also His Excellency Philip Green. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.